Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Today is Thursday, October 16th, 2025. This meeting is being video and audio recorded for future cable broadcast. Please silence all cell phones for the duration of the meeting. Can I have a motion to open the school committee meeting?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
We'll do a roll call.
Mr. Hood?
Yes.
Mrs. Cordero? Yes. Mr. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Helfroth?
Yes.
Mrs. LeGuin? Yes.
And I'll ask everybody to stand so we can start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first item is the consent agenda. Everything listed in the consent agenda was distributed in advance of the meeting. Does anyone have any requests for something to be removed from the consent agenda and discussed or voted on separately?
No.
Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve and accept the items listed in the consent agenda, including the minutes for the September 30th, 2025 meeting?
So motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes unopposed. Dr. Bailey, do we have anyone signed up for delegation?
No.
Seeing no old business, I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Bailey, for new business.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Tonight there's a few things on my report, but most of them are fairly quick. The first one is a policy update, and it's only the first read. So we had an audit for our food service program. So you see in your packet, anything that's highlighted in red has been added, but they're very minor adds, like you see, including school meals. So the first policy is ACE, non-discrimination on the basis of disability, food services. The district shall make reasonable modification in policies, practices, or procedures, and what was added was including school meals, when modifications are necessary, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the first one. The second one is policy ADF, school wellness program. And if you could see all the things in red, that basically we do not do any food and beverage policy marketing. So that was just the recommendations as a result of the audit. So tonight is just the first reading, and then what we will plan to do is in the November meeting, put this on the agenda for a second reading and a vote to approve. Any questions?
That's the only thing that's changing, what's in red?
Yep, what's in red?
Simple.
Yep. All right, so moving on. The next thing I have is the Acushnet Public Schools Middle School Pathway Exploration Policy. And this basically is the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education recently released guidance regarding the updated career and technical education regulations, which can be found through the DESE site, and it's all outlined there. But basically, our district has been doing all of these things for career exploration. So we put it in writing, and you see that attachment there. It's actually, we got some guidance through MASC, because when they said policy, we thought it had to be added to the MASC policies, and that's not the case. We were recently told that as long as it's part of our curriculum of studies, is that we have a pathway exploration policy that our kids get to explore vocational options. And as you know, in Acushnet, our students have the two options of Bristol Aggie as well as Old Colony Regional Voc Tech High School. We have field trip opportunities, we have career days, etc., that we outlined there. But this is just something that we needed a vote on prior to November 1st, where we have to submit to DESE that we actually have it in writing. So does anybody have any questions on what's outlined there in terms of what our school district does for our 8th graders and students? Actually, before 8th grade, they get different field trips and opportunities for the careers.
Okay, well, so you need a motion?
Yes.
So can we have a motion to approve the APS Middle School Pathway Exploration Policy, please?
So motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes unopposed.
Okay, great, thank you. Next, I have PJ Keating representatives here, and they have asked them to go to the podium and introduce themselves. They have a donation that they would like to share with us tonight. And they've been great partners of our school district, and we thank them very much for their support.
Good evening, my name is Derek Hill and I'm the president of PJ Keating.
Good evening, I'm Rick Pavo, I'm the area manager for PJ Keating.
Rick's really the brains behind the golf tournament, and the funds we've raised at the Acushnet River Valley Golf Tournament, we're bringing a check for $14,958 to be your Kickstarter for the reviving and thriving in your library, because we know it starts here. So we're excited to present the check, the big check. The cash will come via another means, but rocks build America, and if you think about it, we're an essential business. So the quarry that has been in existence here since the 1800s, it's a big part of how your quality of life is. And if you just imagine no rocks, no schools, no quarry, no roads. So yes, there are some trade-offs to that, but we're excited to be a partner in the community, be a good corporate citizen, and there's no better way than we can think of than to give back into the school system and for the kids, and we're excited to see what happens here over the next year as you fundraise to bring this building or this part of the library for the kids to a different and cool experience. So we're very grateful to be part of that. So
Very much appreciated, and you've been very generous in your donations to the school system, but I just want to thank you. And I would also ask, I know you might have comments, but if we could also take a picture with the big check with you, that would be great.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would just like to thank you. It's a really generous donation. We can't wait to see how it helps transform this space, and we certainly would welcome you back and hope you'll come back and see what happens here. So we really appreciate it.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we'll just ask if we could do a picture, and then we'll do a vote after that. You want to run?
You need to, I don't know.
You can be in the middle. You need to be.
No, you need,
Yes.
Oh,
yeah. Oh.
there we go.
Can you see everybody?
I can't see Ebony.
Ebony? Okay, sorry.
We're going to ask you to use our phone too,
Okay, yeah.
if you don't mind. Thank you.
Big smiles.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
very
Or
much.
you can use yours, Rick, if it's easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, one more.
If you don't mind.
Charge extra for that.
Yeah, the second picture. We'll be back with
An
another
extra
donation.
$14,000 donation, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Yeah,
your
thank
time.
you.
Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
All right, guys, have a good night.
Thank you.
Same.
Very much.
I would just ask the committee to take a vote to accept the donation of $14,959 from PJ Keating to be earmarked for the renovation of and upgrades for the FMS library.
Yeah, can we have a motion to accept the donation from PJ Keating for the library renovation project?
I'll be more than happy to make that motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes unopposed.
Thank you. Next up, we have another donation, and I just need a vote again to accept a donation from Jesse DeMello. He donated a trumpet and a snare drum to the middle school with a value of over $550.
Can we have a motion to accept the donation from Mr. Jesse, is it DeMello?
DeMello.
For FMS?
So motion.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes unopposed. And I would also like to thank Mr. DeMello for his generous donation. I'm sure it'll go to good use.
Yes,
Absolutely. And we send out thank you acknowledgements from the school committee. So, next up, I have the high school tuition agreement update. Just to let everyone know, we in the district have met with 2 out of the 4 high schools. We're meeting with another high school tomorrow to talk about, tuitions and what they could offer us. in terms of transportation. Those have been the real two big main categories that we've been talking about. I've also passed around in your packet tonight some options for tours for the high schools, and they did offer some evening options as well. So we would have 2 school committee members at each one, possibly, or 1 with some of our central office. So I would just ask tonight before you leave if you could sign up for those so that I can confirm those times. And one of the schools, Freetown Lakeville, we actually have a second meeting coming up. They had more questions than anything, so they're gonna come back with more answers for us, hopefully in the next meeting. But I feel like we're in a good place in terms of timeline. Things are moving rather quickly. You'll see on the tour sheet, all the high schools are listed there with options. The only one school we haven't heard back yet is Fairhaven with times. So we're just waiting for dates and times from them. As soon as I get those, I will email that out to you, and we can have you sign up for that as well.
Did you say, I'm sorry, Dr. Bear, did you say you met with 2, you have 1 tomorrow, and did you say that the other one is, when is the other one scheduled, do you know?
Yeah. So tomorrow, Old Rochester is scheduled. We already met with New Bedford, and then Fairhaven is scheduled for Tuesday, the 21st. So things are moving right along. And I think the next step is the tours, and then we'll take it from there. Aldo's working very closely with me and the superintendents on coming up with some type of agreement if we were to go in the direction of each high school. So, and then we'll bring it back to the committee.
Do you anticipate, and I forget what the date of our November meeting is, or do you anticipate we'll be ready for a more robust discussion at that meeting, or we might have to schedule something separate? I'm just curious the timing.
I think, I'd be interested maybe in November after you have a chance to go on the tours, because you listen to the curriculum and programming already. You'll have the hands-on tour at the schools. I would be interested in listening at that point to what you're thinking in terms of, what makes sense, what makes fiscal sense in terms of being fiscally responsible to our district, what your vision is for moving forward for agreements.
Yeah, we can see how it plays out timing-wise. I think if we're not quite ready by the November regularly scheduled meeting, we should maybe think about another meeting to have that discussion and not wait, because I know we wanted to make the decision by December, so we need to kind of get in front of it. I'm sure we're all anxious to get moving as our, the residents, but I think we're making good progress thus far. Anyone else has any comments, questions?
I mean, our goal is really to get answers from the districts for you, so that we can see what makes sense and what they're agreeable to. But so far, the meetings have been going really well.
Do you, as an admin team, do you want any specific asks that we as school committee members might have that would apply to the financial side of the discussion? I know for me personally, I'm pretty passionate about having some late bus service, because I know that that's a big deal for a lot of parents, especially with kids that are out of town. But there's also a big financial aspect to that as well. Would there be any other topics that would be helpful for us to have some discussion about before you have some of these more financially focused discussions with the other schools?
So like I said, the 2 main focus areas have been transportation, that has come up, late busing, as well as tuition.
Yeah.
Those are the big topics that we've been discussing.
Yeah.
But if you have something else that I should be discussing, please let me know. But I mean, that takes up a good part of the discussion. Those 2 topics are the big, budget items, right? And I think everything else they all want our students to attend their schools, and they want them to feel a part of, and you saw the programming. So they're all a little bit different in some ways, right? So I would be interested in hearing from you in November, your thoughts on what you've seen, heard, toured, all of it, and what you think would be in the best interest of the Acushnet students. Yeah.
I think one of the big pushes for me is the special education too, and supportive services and what they have to offer.
Mm-hmm.
As well as how many students they send out of district and how many they're able to support within district.
Mm-hmm. And we can certainly get that information for you.
Have there been discussions either with the schools or amongst the administrative team about what like the target term of these contracts is going to be? I know we've had some very, very long-term contracts in the past. And like granted, this is a pretty heavy lift in terms of just a selection process, so it's not necessarily something that we'd want to have to go through every, 3 to 5 years. But 20 years is probably
20
also
years is too long.
too long.
Right.
So like what's that happy middle ground? I don't know.
So I agree, 20 years is too long because we had trouble, addressing things with a 20-year contract. My thought was, because this is new, and I think depending on what the committee decides to do, we possibly could do, and I would talk to legal about this too, is a 3-year with a 2-year or 3-year extension. So keep it all in one, but like try things out. If we're gonna do something different, try it out, and then we can reassess it after the length of time that we think is appropriate.
Yeah, I personally, even 10 feels a little long to me unless there's some options in there that allow for us to get out or renegotiate if we find out that something really isn't working.
Yeah.
3 years feels maybe too short in some ways, because if it's 3 years, you're going to be in that negotiation like,
It's like
it's going
it's
to
like
hit
a
like that.
congressional
Yeah. But-
congressional election cycle. Like
Exactly.
you just constantly.
But 3
Well, I
with an
think- I feel
extension,
like-
maybe that's workable,
Yeah.
workable.
Yeah. A lot changes in 20 years, right?
Yeah.
So if it's a little shorter with an extension, negotiating will be a little easier with things that are hopefully similar, right?
And, it would feel a little weird to be someone goes there for 4 years. That we'd be
Right.
negotiating before someone was actually able to go through
Yeah.
the process. But
We always
Yeah.
put in the contract, though, that no matter what, students would be grandfathered.
Sure.
If we
Yeah,
ever were
sure.
to break the contract, they would be grandfathered in to stay, and the schools have been extremely agreeable to that, so I don't anticipate that being an issue.
I think that erring on that shorter end, like maybe in like the 4 to 5 year range, probably makes the most sense because then, a freshman isn't going to be, there's not really a worry of them not being able to continue to attend because of the grandfathering language in the contract, but we're not constantly interrupting these kids' school experience by these schools having to go up for rebidding every 3 years.
Right.
I think that's probably a good timeframe.
Obviously, I'll consult with legal on what they recommend for something like this. But definitely, I don't think the district is in favor of a 20-year
No.
contract.
The Bedford one was 20, Fairhaven was 10,
10.
right?
Mhm.
And, especially where we're dealing with some new schools, they're essentially, unknown quantities in a
That's
lot of
right.
ways, so we wouldn't want to be in a long 10-year contract with a school we've never sent kids to before.
That's why I thought if we did a shorter contract, shorter duration with the option of an extension,
Yeah.
so that it could be longer.
Yeah, I just naturally, I think as long as even if it's with extension, it gets us to a 5 or 6 year.
Right.
That just feels like it's probably kind of the right
Yeah.
sweet spot, but
Yeah.
we can have more discussion about it. It just feels long enough, but not too long,
Right.
not too short.
Yeah, I guess my only concern if we did like a 3-year with a, possibility of like a 2-year extension is I wouldn't want to see the school district be in a position where we have to do any sort of renegotiation or see tuition rates change or see anything, unexpected at that extension time. Like I think it would be wise if we made it just an extension of the existing contract unless both parties agree that something needs to change. Like maybe we decide the transportation arrangements that we've put together aren't working.
The only thing I would say to add to that is possibly looking at Chapter 70 funding, because if that formula changes, it may have to change the tuition agreement. So again, I think the legal team will put in language that would address that. But I think I agree with you that we should be not changing, it should be minimal changes, if things are going well.
And I know just from like the town's ability to absorb cost, I mean, the hope is that we wouldn't see significant increases in tuitions over what we already have contracted. Because if we see a big jump in those, especially with all the unknowns related to the Old Colony project, I mean, it just creates a lot of uncertainty in the town's ability to even pay. So, good,
Right.
yeah.
I agree, because we're struggling now, so we want to make sure that we make a fiscally sound decision.
I have two questions. Number one, would we be able to get any performance-based feedback on student performance as far as how our students attend testing? So we know, that we're getting our money's worth. College placements, we've been through that before.
We
The
have,
question, and it was inability to provide that. But I'm just wondering if that can be pursued, so it allows us to look at what we've bought into as far as the performance we have, so therefore we have to reevaluate the contract, or the understanding. So I think that, that it should be almost like a performance-based type of contract, and so we have valuable information. And it allows, the superintendent and administration, if we do have any shortfalls, we pick that up, that we have to look at, re-examine that curriculum, and refine it, or whatever situations that we, encounter. So that'd be my first suggestion.
Sorry, go ahead, John.
The second one is, if we were regionalized, the state picks up the transportation, is that correct?
I'm not sure.
Is that
That's correct.
Yeah.
They reimburse you for it.
right? But in tuition agreements, they do not.
No.
Now, is that a ruling from the State Department of Education, or is it in the legislation? Do you know?
I've been communicating with the Department of Ed on this past week.
Thank you.
I've been communicating with the Department of Ed on this. That's been my question, because with Chapter 70, there's a base rate that you get for your students. Then on top of that, if they're English language learners, you get additional funds. If they're low income, you get additional funds. And if they're special education, you get additional funds. So what I found is that we get the base rate, but when those students get placed at whatever high school they're at, according to how they're classified, whether they're low income or not, those additional funds go directly to that school. So all we ever have is the base rate. That's what basically we will be negotiating the contract out at. So those funds follow them.
Okay. The question I have, can we have a possibility of exploring that we have the same reimbursement as if we were regionalized, because we're tuition? Tuition agreements may be part of that reimbursement.
So, Mr. Howcroft, we did look into that last year, because we looked at a school, for example, like Old Rochester. They get reimbursed for their transportation. My question was, could we get reimbursed if our students went there for transportation? And the answer was no.
Based on, see, the
Because we're not
question,
part of that region, the
Right.
localization, right?
so I was trying to is that based on a State Department of Education ruling, or is it in the legislation, in legislation?
Right, I don't know. That was the answer we got from DESE and the legal team from DESE
That,
when we inquired.
if we say it's in legislation, is it possible, therefore, that we have we pursue maybe an amendment to that legislation with our state legislators and have them change it? Since I think we're one of the very few in the Commonwealth that's tuition-based as regionalized, and whether that we could be, change that so we can be reimbursed for, transportation, expenditures, which will ease some of the the burden.
I think what you're requesting is a home rule petition
Correct.
that our legislators would have to bring forward, and we'd have to get approved directly. There'd be a legislation written just for us. My understanding is that there's 5 districts in the state that have our situation, so it could be something that could be looked at. I have no idea what would happen, but I've been through home rule petitions before, and it usually depends on how much weight you carry at the State House as far as getting something pushed through.
I thought it might be worth, pursuing, so it's a possibility of finding additional revenue.
That's a great idea. I
Great
don't
point.
think it's a quick
No, it's not a quick fix,
It's not a
but
quick fix.
at least we,
Yeah, and it's something where, we could even, reach out to those other, districts and kind of just see if they've explored this process and kind of, stand on the shoulders of those that have come before, so to speak.
So I've been in touch with those other districts, and they're asking me for samples of what we
Everybody's asking
have, and I've
the same thing.
explained. Yeah, everyone seems to be going through very similar things. And everyone's situation is also a little different.
Sure.
But just to go back, Mr. Howcroft, on your first point about student performance, it's a great idea. We have tried. We don't have access to our high school students once they leave us through the Aspen system. And they don't seem to divvy them out by Acushnet students, Fairhaven. So we are unable to get those individual scores. But I will tell you.
factors, could be placements, could be.
Yeah, I mean, when we get the list for, the valedictorians or the top 10 students in the high schools, we are very pleased and very happy when we see a lot of Acushnet students on those lists, right? But we don't get specifics, unfortunately. But it's something we can certainly continue to work at. But I understand, why your question is there. It makes sense.
Maybe in negotiations,
Right.
say that may be a factor
Mm-hmm.
in our decision-making of what high schools we choose to, participate with.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe a little competition, they may find a means by which someone come up with an.
One of the
Creative,
things we do is we're in touch with high school principals, department heads, as well as the superintendents. We want to know that when our students are entering high school, are they ready? So we've done work in that area. We've had teachers and administrators from Acushnet talk to their administrators. If we had a weakness in math, let's say, or our kids come in strong in Spanish, not so much in math, that kind of conversation. Okay, so what are you doing? What can we do? Those conversations will continue. We want it, no matter who is chosen, I believe the goal would be for us to have strong partnerships with each school that we choose, whether it's 1 or 4. We want to make sure that we're in touch with all of our students, high schools.
Yeah, I just feel that we should, for performance of our students, that it should be more than just anecdotal
Yes.
and opinions. And that's basically what we have, received in the past. And I think we should have a lot more, because then it allows us to make some more concrete type of decisions of what, what high schools are. Because we really want the best.
Absolutely.
And I think we're going to be paying a good amount for the best. So basically, we should.
I think what we can go off of right now is their overall scores for each high school. That's a great starting point, and then we can try to do a deeper dive to the
So
Acushnet students.
Leave it to them. They may
Yeah.
find some.
Okay.
I'm wondering if there's a way to follow them too, just for us, if there's somebody here at the schools that could follow the students that go into high school. I feel like there's such a, I don't know, disconnect's the right word that I want to think of, but once they go to high school, it's like, okay, and then it's that district, which I get, we want them to fully assimilate to whichever high school it is. But the other thing is maybe there's a way for us to keep in touch with them so they know still, like, I know a lot of the kids that I work with anyway, they like to have that continuity. So if they know somebody is checking in that's familiar and kind of like to bridge that gap, and if we can keep tabs on them from this end, maybe we'd be able to track that our own way too. Although that adds more work.
One thing that I'd be interested in, and this will probably come with, Angie and the rest of the admin team touring the schools, but especially from a curriculum standpoint. You know, I know Acushnet's been pretty progressive in terms of pursuing new curriculums, new formats for teaching. And it'd be really interesting to see Angie's feedback on what the curriculums look like at these other schools. Is it going to be a smooth transition? Are they teaching in a substantially different way than we're teaching in Acushnet Public Schools? That would be more jarring, more difficult for kids to get accustomed to. So for me, that would be really great feedback.
Okay.
All right.
And the only other thing I wanted to say in the update is one of the things I think I would recommend is a parent survey.
Yeah.
I'd like to send out a survey soon. But if you have any suggestions on that, you want input, whatever, I'm open to that as well. But I think that's really important. We have a lot of families that have connections with all of the schools, really. And I think them having a voice is important. And our high school night is going to be after we have all these discussions. And then I think it's important for those 8th grade families also to have some type of a survey after they see the presentations after the high school night. So it's not just the 8th grade families who we want to survey. This will impact families all across the grade levels, right? So, and I think it's important that we get multiple sources of information, not just one survey, right? So that's something that we're also looking to do.
Yeah, I think it would be great if we could get it out to, you know, any kids that are currently enrolled, or, you know, parents and guardians of any kids that are currently enrolled in any grade level in our school system. And then, honestly, it would be great if the town could mirror it, and maybe we could just put like a little selection, like the first question could be like, do you currently or do you plan to have a child enrolled in Acushnet Public School? That way, you know, there might be folks that are in town that maybe are educators or have thoughts and opinions on school selection, but maybe they're, you know, grandparents or their kids have aged out. But I think that feedback would still be really valuable. Just having that qualifier of, you know, whether they have students or plan to versus not would help us kind of differentiate the responses.
To me, this is a wonderful opportunity for the town.
Yeah.
This is why people move to the town, and I think having a choice in high schools, you know, people might look at it as a downfall that we don't have our own high school, we're not big enough, but we have choice, and our kids can actually choose what fits them, which I think is a wonderful opportunity for our families, so.
I think the survey is important. I think the challenge with the survey is always trying to strike the right balance of making it relatively streamlined and efficient, not too cumbersome for people,
Right.
but also be able to get at the information in a clear way that's useful.
Yes.
And that's not my area of expertise. It's tough balancing act, but not to, you know, I think the first thing I do when I open up a survey, and I think it's going to take me 3 minutes, and I see it's like 48 questions, it's like I'm out of there. So on something like this, I might take the time.
I always look at the time,
But-
how long it's going
Yeah.
to take to complete the survey. That's the first thing I look at, so I think that that's a big consideration.
And I think that, you know, we need to kind of think about the timing at which we get the survey out. So, I mean, realistically, I would think that the sooner we can get something together and out to the community, the better. Because, you know, we do have some tours coming up, and if we have responses before we go on some of those tours, you know, certainly not all of them, but some of them, that might help us to kind of guide the questions that we ask while we're in the schools. And then, you know, we'd probably also want to have responses finalized before, I presume the December date is when we're going to actually, the December school committee meeting is when we're actually going to take a vote. But, you know, if we could even have responses finalized before the November meeting to inform some of that discussion, that would be phenomenal.
We can try.
It's just a matter of if we have time to do it. Sorry,
Yeah.
Patrick.
Right.
I mean, I think we have to do the surveys and get the results before we make a decision, because
Yeah.
otherwise it's a,
Yeah.
and we're all going to have to, we have a rubric, and that's great. There may be things that are not on the rubric that might be important to any of us, or, and we're all going to have to determine on our own kind of, something that might be super important to me might be less important to you or you or you, right? So we all kind of have to wade through that territory of kind of figuring out what makes you know, the most important things that you chose. But all right, next.
Okay. Next, I had Ms. Betancourt scheduled to talk about the transition plan, but with the change in meeting, she had another meeting tonight. But I've asked Ms. Doyle, our new Director of Student Services, to talk about the transition tonight. So I would love to call her up to the podium, Ms. Doyle. She's finishing up her second week here in Acushnet. We're just very happy to have you.
Thank you, Superintendent Bailey. Good evening, school committee members. I'm happy to be here tonight to be able to share with you how I've been able to spend my first few weeks as your new Director of Student Services. It was wonderful that Superintendent Bailey was able to take the time to walk me through the building so that I was able to meet the students and the staff. And from there, I've arranged individual meet and greets with teachers and related service providers. I've been able to meet with some of them already with the goal of beginning to build relationships, as well as to listen to their SMART goals as related to the educator evaluation system. And in addition to that, I've been able to work with the other members of the central office staff to get a status overview of things like curriculum, technology, and the budget. In addition to that, Kim Betancourt and I will be spending some time next week reviewing all the details of student cases and some of the other details for things like information input to systems like Medicaid, circuit breaker, and some of the other things that we need to do to make sure that all of our data is updated and accurate so that we're able to provide the best level of service that we can. And thus far, everyone has been extremely welcoming, and I'm really just grateful to be here. So thank you.
Thank you, and I have to say, it doesn't always happen this way, but we're so fortunate that there is some overlap. So I feel like the transition is a nice, smooth one for our district and our students and families. So I'm really thankful that you were able to come on so quickly, and it worked out with Ms. Betancourt's schedule, so I appreciate everything that you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any questions? Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Next, I have my goals. So in your packet, you will see I have outlined goals. I've been meeting with the chair and vice chair of the school committee as they are on that subcommittee for my goals. So I want to review those with you. So the first goal is, these are 2-year goals. And the first goal is a student learning goal. And typically in the past, we've been doing, achieving academic excellence, and we've been doing well in that area. We decided to switch it up this round because we did spot some weaknesses in the social emotional areas of engagement, safety, and environment with some of the questions that students were answering on the vocal survey, which is the survey that the students take after they take MCAS. And I always say, like, MCAS is not just a 4th grade or 5th grade issue. It starts preschool, kindergarten. We all have a piece in preparing for that. So I feel as though if students are feeling good, comfortable, safe, engaged, then that will lead to academic achievement. So students will report increased engagement, safety, and positive school environment as measured by district benchmark surveys, beginning of the year, middle of the year, and end of the year assessments for students in grades 3 through 8, with at least a 4-point increase in positive responses across those domains compared to the spring 2025 baseline data. And that is, the baseline data is based on the vocal data. So for environment, we're looking at the instructional environment, mental health environment, discipline environment. These are how students are answering questions about those subcategories. For safety, we're looking at bullying, cyberbullying, emotional safety, physical safety. And for engagement, we're looking at participation, cultural competence, and relationships. So this is something that my administrative team will be working on, and it will be a part of the goals menu as we work on it for the next couple of years. But the way this works is you'll have an update at the end of this year, but I do one in the middle of the year actually, and then another one at the end. At the end of the year, it will be considered my formative assessment, which is like a check-in, and then my summative assessment will be at the end of the 2 years. okay? So on the second goal, that's a professional practice goal. That's more of an individual goal. Our teachers have them and our administrators have them as well. So I'm choosing, because you can never get great at this, it's always something we're always striving to be better at, but strengthen district-wide strategic communications to enhance transparency, trust, and engagement among all Acushnet Public School stakeholders through targeted professional learning. And as you know, I just got a grant for that Leading Now program. I went to Atlanta, it was all grant funded for training, and we have virtual meetings monthly. But that's a national cohort of superintendents who are working towards the same goals as myself. So it was a very competitive process, got involved in that. So that's listed there. I will refine systems, practices, and messages that promote clear, consistent, and effective communication across the district. And then it talks about, how it's measurable, achievable, time-bound, etc. If you go to goal number 3, that is a district improvement goal. So Acushnet Public Schools will collaboratively develop, approve, and provide professional development and implement an updated district strategic plan. So our strategic plan, as you know, ends at the end of the school year. This is a huge undertaking. As you know, we started the work last year. I met individually with every single employee in the district to get their feedback. We will be doing parent meetings this year. We will be collecting more data. We also did student meetings, student groups. So it's not the Dr. Bailey strategic plan. It is a plan that's truly from all of the stakeholders across the district. So that we hope to have in place, and your school committee, as a school committee, very much a part of that, and I would love to hear your voice in that as well as we move forward with that goal. And then the last goal is to continue, it's another district improvement goal, and it's an important goal. It's very important to our staff, especially here in the district, to continue to provide a safe and healthy learning environment that prioritizes the well-being of every Acushnet Public Schools community member. And as you know, we have had some concerns with the air quality at the elementary school. We've done facilities audits, and this is something that hasn't ended. We're continuing to look for funding for that. We're keeping this at the forefront. Our Safety and Wellness Committee, who has parents on that committee, will be very involved in this particular goal. We've established a joint labor management committee that will include stakeholders from throughout the district to talk about issues that are related to safety and wellness. And we're continuing that work because it's very important, and I don't want to see anyone feeling uncomfortable in the district, in their environment. Everybody, students, staff alike, should be reporting to work or school and feel comfortable that this is a safe and healthy environment. And we know that our buildings do need some work, and that's something that I will continue to work with the town to focus on getting some of these projects completed. Does anybody have any questions?
And I'll just add, Melissa and myself have been working with Dr. Bailey on these goals. I think we're comfortable with them. I think the other thing that Dr. Bailey referenced is goals are not necessarily static. She mentioned that there's several check-in here along the way, so if things come up that need to be added or changed or adjusted, obviously we have the ability to do that because things happen. And I think, what Dr. Bailey, just one question. The goal is to develop the strategic plan. The strategic plan itself would then also, would that be approved by the school committee? So that's a pretty big goal that ultimately we'll have to sign off on as well, just for clarification there. But I have no other comments.
I think alignment is really important. So from the school committee, the administration, the teachers, the families, the students, we all have to be in alignment with our mission and vision and goals and action steps. And I think that's what has led to the success of our previous plan, because everyone was so aligned and everyone was so focused. You see, when we have educational spotlights and presentations, they're always pointing out and how they're aligned to the district plan. Our budgetary decisions align to the district plan. So that's really important that we keep that at the forefront of everything we do and everything we discuss.
Any other questions?
Yeah, so with regards to SMART goal number 4, obviously that one's pretty expansive. You know, that's a pretty heavy lift, and congratulations to you for wanting to take that on, kind of head on. One of the questions that I had was, it looks like, and I could just be missing something because there are quite a few bullets in the strategy section. It looks like most of this is related specifically to like physical health, well-being, facilities issues, Allison fire drills, that kind of thing. Are there any aspects in here that are related to the like social and emotional well-being of students going through the schools?
I did not put that because that's more related to goal number 1,
Okay.
the SEL.
Okay.
So the biggest focus of goal 1 this time around will be SEL. And I just want to say, like, you might see something, well, why isn't that there? But we focus on everything constantly, all the time. But these are the ones that, for the 4 goals we're focused on, and they're goals. And I tell the teachers this all the time, like, shoot for the stars and see where you land, because we want the best for all of our students. And we always say that nothing is written in stone, that we can certainly look at them again, and we might be at the end of the year and decide, let's change this one. And that's something we can certainly do. I just asked the committee, I don't like any surprises, you know, nobody does. So if there's any concerns that any of you have along the way, definitely give me a call, contact me, we can talk about any concerns you have. But if I don't hear anything, I assume everything's fine, okay?
All right, may I have a motion to approve Dr. Bailey's 2025 to 2027 goals?
So moved.
Can I second that?
Yeah.
Okay, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes unopposed.
Thank you. So next up, we have a spotlight on education tonight, and we want to review our MCAS data. We know that the reports have gone home to families today, but I would call Ms. Ruggieri up and Mrs. Chesney to do this presentation. And again, because the meeting was changed, we had a couple of people who couldn't be here tonight.
Good evening, Chairman Hood and members of the school committee. So we're going to present on the spring 2025 MCAS results for grades 3 through 8. So we're going to tonight cover our accountability ratings for each school, performance, and next steps.
Mr. Jerry, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
If we have questions, do you want us to ask them during the presentation? Do you prefer that we wait till the end?
I'm okay either way.
Okay.
Sure. Accountability percentiles. So what we have here is a history of the AES and FMS accountability ratings since 2018. And the indicators for how this is calculated includes student achievement, student growth, English language proficiency, and chronic absenteeism. So each school in 2025 had a slight dip in accountability ratings from the previous year.
So just to go over a couple of bright spots, we did experience a high level of achievement and growth this year, and that's for AES, it's from 3rd to 4th grade. Areas that we are looking for to grow, we really need to look at our lowest performing groups of students, which we have identified often in our meetings as students who receive special education services. And we really need to reduce the absenteeism that we are seeing in the school. We did a lot of things last year, and we'll be talking about that a little bit later, But we also think there was a different calculation, if you want to talk about that, with the way that absenteeism or chronic absenteeism was reported by the state, because they were counting COVID as unexcused for the previous school year, we think. Want to talk about FMS? Yeah.
So FMS, a bright spot was that we actually had lower chronic absenteeism for the lowest performing students. And for areas for growth at FMS, we'd like to see an increase in achievement and growth for the all students group and the lowest performing student group. So DESE, just so you know, they do two different calculations. They'll take all students, compile data, and then they also pull out the lowest performing 25% or 20 students, whichever is greater. So that may include students who may need services, but it also may not. And so what they're looking at for that lowest performing group is comparing that group of students from one year to the next. And they're looking at their growth and achievement and also their rates of attendance. So at FMS, we need to increase the achievement and growth for both groups, really, and to reduce the chronic absenteeism in the all students group.
So these charts just basically show our comparison from the averages for ELA from 3 through 8 as compared to the state, and we outpace them in those students who are exceeding or meeting expectations. Same thing with our math as well. And science as well, right? I was looking at that one, that was FMS, sorry.
Yep, FMS, grades up. So science MCAS is only given in grades 5 and 8. Okay, and now what we're looking at is student achievement and growth. So the star there in the center is the state performance for achievement and growth. And then we're kind of comparing how did our schools and district do to compare to the state. So the green circle is showing AES, and we're showing higher growth and also higher achievement there. And then the yellow is FMS. So we're showing lower growth than the state at FMS and kind of, the red is combined, so that's the district. The yellow is FMS and kind of showing their lower growth and about the same achievement levels. Oh, and that was for ELA in grades 3 through 8. And now we're looking at math 3 through 8. And sometimes they change the colors depending on the subject area. I don't know why. So the star is the state and the green is AES. And the middle school is now red and the district is yellow. And again, we're looking at a little bit higher growth and higher achievement for AES in math. So this would be just our students who went from 3rd to 4th grade last year, so our last year's 4th graders. And again, FMS kind of lower there on the growth and similar, close in achievement, but a little lower in growth for math. Now, I just added this. This is kind of a lot of the similar data, but it's broken out by grade level. This is AES. Can you see that already?
Yeah, I can see it. It's just a different way of representing each subject area and how many students were either meeting or exceeding. I just think it's a little bit easier to see that than some of the other representations. Definitely bright spots that were outpacing the state, as we mentioned before. Talk about FMS.
And for FMS, for FMS, again, broken out by grade level and subject area. the percent of students at each achievement level. And we can also see the average growth all the way to the right.
I was too.
Okay, so this comparison shows the number of students who either met or exceeded proficiency across different local school districts. So you can see it's sort of comparing, we're at 56 for ELA, kind of in the middle, but definitely higher than some other districts. Same thing with third grade math and so on. You can see those differences there.
And I'll just add that we put this slide in because this is something in the past that the school committee has been interested in, looking at the other towns in the area.
Do we ever, so like, if you look at math for Rochester, the number kind of jumps out because it's pretty high compared to the other groups. Do we ever find out some of the things that they might be doing and how that compares with what we're doing?
Definitely, we actually collaborate a lot, right? We're talking for just foundational literacy, not necessarily exactly correlating to MCAS, but when we find out that somebody's doing something well, we talk to them, have visits, find out what we can do and investigate it ourselves.
And I will tell you that, going back to the high school conversation, the superintendents that we've talked to so far want to work with us to work together sooner than 8th grade going into 9th grade, that transition. So it will be a true partnership.
So the green there under Acushnet is just kind of that comparison to the state, where we're showing, green would show that we're outperforming the state. So now we're looking at FMS, grades 5 through 8% of students meeting or exceeding by grade level and subject area. And we've got the green and the red there, kind of, again, comparing to the state how we performed.
One question. On
Sure.
the civics, this is the first year that they have that. Looking at the results, do you plan maybe re-examining your curriculum, to increase those scores?
So we're not planning on making a change at this time. We just adopted a new curriculum that is supported by the Department of Education. And last year was our very first year in that curriculum. The teacher was receiving professional development. It is a new way of learning for students. There's a learning curve, I believe, anytime we adopt a new curriculum for the teacher, for the students. But we know that it's rated as a high-quality curriculum resource. And we have an excellent teacher in the classroom who is becoming very highly trained in that curriculum. So at this point, we are not looking at abandoning ship on that one. Sometimes, they say it takes a few years to really start to see the results.
So we'll wait till next year.
We'll wait and see. Again, we are utilizing a curriculum that is supported by the 1-8 Foundation, who you've probably heard quite a bit about, that we are receiving grant funding for professional development. The same group that funds professional development for Open SciEd and investigating history and some other activities that we've done. They're supporting the 8th grade curriculum that we're using. They're providing the professional development, and that is also supported by the Department of Education. And then this is the district comparisons again, but now we're looking at grades 3 through 8 in the areas of ELA, math, and science, technology, engineering. Okay, so in summary, overall accountability percentiles dipped for both FMS and AES, mostly because a need to increase achievement and growth for the lowest performing students at AES and all students at FMS, and chronic absenteeism just kind of continues to be a nagging problem in our district. We are doing a regular outreach to families and students. We're providing counseling resources, monthly contact, monthly letters for students who are being flagged as chronically absent, phone calls home, meeting with counselors, providing those resources, and we just really want to continue to reiterate that school is really an important place to be for students. That it, not just because DESE's looking at our chronic absenteeism, but we can often kind of track that also does affect performance and growth. So overall, the district has outperformed the state in ELA, math, and science achievement, and AES is showing higher growth than the state, while FMS is showing lower growth than the state in both ELA and math. So what are some of our next steps? We're gonna be doing some root cause analysis of the data. We're going to really continue to try to stabilize and rebuild the attendance culture. This is something that sprung out of COVID and just is not fully recovering the way we would like to see it recovering. We want to embed opportunities for students to practice item types that mirror the MCAS. We're seeing a lot of really great teaching and learning happening at the middle school. We're doing a lot of learning walks. We are seeing just huge amounts of effort that teachers and students are making to use that applied learning that we've been talking so much about. We had the 8th grade, or actually it wasn't 8th grade, it was students from the middle school, 6th through 8th, come in and talk about the learning that they're doing in the science classrooms, that applied learning. So we're seeing the results of that. What we're not so much seeing is the results of that on the MCAS. Keep in mind that the MCAS is kind of that traditional assessment that hasn't necessarily caught up with the way that some of the teaching and learning is being pushed in the new standards, quite frankly, and also the teacher-educator evaluation rubric. And so while, yes, MCAS does matter, it's a good measure, it's good to have a universal measure, it's also one factor of the many that we want to be looking at to say, are we having success in our schools? And when we do our learning walks, we are seeing a lot of what we want to be seeing in that student engagement. And so we maybe need to spend a little time just again, like embedding opportunities for students to practice that more traditional type of assessment so that it doesn't look so unfamiliar, perhaps. Intensify support for our lowest performing subgroups, and then we continue to just review curriculum that we have for many reasons. One, we want it to be performing for our students. We want it to be work. We want to see growth and we want to see achievement. And also we're kind of getting at that point where some of our curriculum, we have now had it for a length of time where we're at that point where we can start saying, do we want to continue or do we want to start piloting? And there is interest in the district to pilot, and we actually do have small pockets of piloting happening here and there with math and ELA.
I can assure you that the teachers and the staff are working extremely hard with our students. I also want to point out that, as you know, MCAS at the high school level is no longer a requirement. And what we've seen happening across the state is that sometimes people don't take it seriously anymore. But we've really been trying to instill in our students that it is important show what you know, but I can't reiterate enough about the chronic absenteeism. The students cannot learn if they're not in school. And it's one thing to be out one day here if you're sick, 2 days, but when you're taking vacations during school time, it's not helpful to the students. So I would just ask families to be cognizant of, they miss a lot when they miss a day of school. They miss a lot of direct instruction. And that's hard to get back, and everything scaffolds and builds on everything. So I would just ask that, we make an effort as a community, a school community, to get our students in school each and every day learning. We know that when we have fun things at school, we have great attendance on that day, right? But we are seeing.
Can you quantify, like pre-COVID, the average number of days absent was X, and what is it now?
We can do that, and I believe we have done that. I don't know off the top of my head,
Right.
but yeah, we can look into that.
Well, I know from the mental health perspective, I've seen huge jumps in school anxiety and
Yes.
social anxiety, and that really does attribute to it. And it just, awareness and self-confidence too for the kids to be out in the school. It's really taken a toll on the kids. I also think for MCAS testing, the multi-sensory approach is so necessary. And MCAS really doesn't do that, unfortunately.
Right.
So we can't really assess all these kids that have these needs that to learn different ways, which is why we have vocational schools and traditional schools and agricultural schools. But I do think that there has to be I know we need some kind of testing to be able to evaluate our students nationwide, really, but as far as being able to, I don't know, they just have to redo that test if it were that easy. So I do think that there's a lot as far as since COVID, yeah, definitely a lot. And then testing anxiety too.
That's right.
A lot of that.
And that's why, going back to my goals, that first goal for student achievement is focused on the SEL, because that's what we're seeing more of, right? So we're very cognizant of it, and our people, our staff, our team, everyone's working really hard at getting it right.
One question that we haven't had much discussion on. Homeschooled youngsters included in this testing?
No.
They're not. Do we have a higher percentage of people in homeschool than the average state?
I believe our numbers are up. That's like the digital TECA program, for example. But we're definitely seeing more programs popping up than what was available previously. And that is something as a district that we're looking at, because you're only supposed to have a certain percentage of students going into homeschooling. And then you kind of have to cap it. And we were slightly over that, I believe, last year.
But is it up everywhere? Maybe again, some of the result of COVID
It
and
is,
other things.
well, I know
We're not
from-
higher than other.
No, we're not higher than other districts. Other districts, the enrollment in these programs, it's much more competitive now. I can tell you that the tuition rates have gone up for these programs because they're filling the seats right away. People want, and again, it could go back to the SEL, where some students are more comfortable doing a virtual program, right? What Ms. Ruggieri said, and I'm really pleased about, and I can vouch for this, is at the middle school, I see a huge difference in the hands-on and engagement. Even though our students aren't reporting that to us, they don't realize when they're working in these small groups together, they're teaching each other. And when the question on the survey says, do you teach, your friends or your peers? And they're saying no, but they don't realize, well, maybe you're not standing in front of the classroom teaching, like traditional, but when you're working together as a group, you are teaching each other, and that's what it's all about. We had a fire drill the other day, and I saw all these scientists, these wildcat scientists, come out in the fire drill with their goggles and aprons, and you talk to them, they're excited. They are engaged in the process. So, and I hadn't seen that when I first started 8 years ago. It is very different. And another factor I would point out, and I think we've talked about this, is we've sent our teachers, especially at the middle school, to a lot of intense professional development because of this new way of learning. And you have to keep in mind, when the teachers are out, it is never the same. There's a substitute, and we do our best to fill it, but we have to give our teachers the right training so they can implement this program correctly. So that's another factor I want to look at in terms of how often were they out last year, how often are they going to be out this year, right? Because we don't have the same intensity in terms of training year after year. So I think that's another factor to look at as well, because our teachers spent days in Norwood, but the excitement and joy that I now see from teachers teaching these subjects that they've taught for years in a different way it's wonderful. I mean, that's what I look for when I walk around the classrooms is, do I see the joy in students? Do I see the joy and the happiness from teachers? Because for me, that's what it's about. And this is one measure, and we report on a bunch of measures, as you know.
So you guys talk about next steps, like what is that, I know it looks like that, but are there ongoing conversations and do you meet periodically? Like how does that flow, ebb and flow like throughout the year as far as making changes and if this isn't working, then let's do this type of thing?
So we'll start diving in, we'll start sharing more and more data out as it was embargoed at the beginning of the school year with the staff, and they'll start looking at, trying to do kind of like a root cause analysis of what, where are the sticking points and what is it? And is it something that we need to look at with our coaches as far as instructional moves that people can make, or is it again, is our curriculum, are we sure that our curriculum is covering the standards that we're seeing maybe some patterns, start looking more for that. So we have an upcoming professional development day where we'll be having the staff do a deep dive. Our leadership team regularly looks at data and also kind of does similar root cause analysis and really tries to parse it out by the different subgroups too, to figure out who is it that's having a hard time? Is it everybody or is it certain groups? It's a cycle.
But it's important that the teachers have this data in their hands because they're on the front lines. They know that they can put a face with a number, right? They understand what happened in that previous year. So we also have the SILT team, our instructional leadership team that looks at this. So those are the teacher leaders. So it's constant.
Who's looking into the attendance? And what's getting in the way of the attendance?
Right.
Who's in charge of that?
I mean, all of us.
Oh, I didn't know if there was,
Sent with a letter, yeah.
Yeah, I know that because after 5 days absent, you get the attendance, the concern about attendance, and then I didn't know at what point does it go to a CRA? How we do that, or what we do preventative measures to, as far as the school goes, and to go into going into the home and seeing what the issues are at the home, how we can, is there a committee that's doing that?
It's a team, and it's generally, by the school. So the building administration is kind of the people who monitor and raise the flag. And then they'll involve counselors and whatnot. The CRAs are kind of more kind of, they're not as helpful as one might think because oftentimes, so what the state considers an absence and what the courts consider an absence might be two different things. So whether or not there's a doctor's note, an absence is an absence in the eye of the state, whereas with the judicial system, they'll see it as an excused absence. So even though a student may be absent 10% of the time, 18 days in a school year, they may have a medical note for that. They're considered chronically absent, and that affects our rating. So a lot of these students may not necessarily even, the CRAW might not be the appropriate action. When it is, then yes, we'll go that route. But if not, then yeah, it might be more getting services from Child and Family or the counselors, really trying to get the families in, getting contract signs with students for attendance. and looking at it on an individual basis. We're a smaller school district. I mean, a few people, a few students who are out chronically can really throw our numbers
And
one
I
way
think
or
sometimes families, from what in my discussions with them, they feel like they have the excused note from the doctor, it's fine. Well, it's fine, you have a note, but the child missed a day of learning, or a week of learning, or 2 weeks of learning, and it does add up, and that's how students fall behind, and we have gaps in their learning. We don't want that, we want to close the gaps. So this is something we work very hard at every day.
If it's not too much work, if you could pull something together that maybe over the last 5 years, I don't know, that shows kind of on average what the number of days are that a student is, it would be helpful, I think, for all of us to see
Okay.
when we talk about it, what is that
Yeah.
translating to into numbers?
Sure.
And maybe it helps us when we think about things like resources and what's available, like maybe there's things we can look at to address some of it, but it'd be helpful to see the numbers, I think, at least for me.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that absenteeism is on the rise more so in the elementary school than in the middle school. It seems like it's actually gotten better in the middle school, which is fantastic. I'd be interested to see, I mean, I don't really know if we, you know, if the admin team logs like reasons that kids are out, if it's sickness, if it's family vacation, if it's other, you know, death in the family, whatever. But it would just be kind of interesting to see. I don't know that it would be helpful, but
I think it would be helpful.
yeah.
Because Griffin missed the whole week, and I got a letter, he had the flu.
Yeah.
So it's
Right,
like,
and it's obviously
he had the
legit
flu, I couldn't send him to
concerns,
school, I got the
right.
letter, I was like,
And we're not
what?
talking about kids who are sick,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We don't
That-
want
yeah.
students who are ill to
To
be
come
in
to
school and spread germs, right? Nobody wants that. We're talking about
But I
kids who
think that's
just,
important,
you know,
reasons.
don't come to school.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that post-COVID, there's probably also a lot more tendency for parents, especially of elementary school kids, to keep them out if they are feeling under the weather, whereas in, you know, prior years, maybe they would just get, you know, kicked out the door and said, well, you're not puking or running a fever, so
Mhm.
you gotta go to school.
Right.
There's probably a little less tolerance for that, especially with young kids these
Yeah.
days.
Oh, 'cause-
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
appropriate that with a chronic absenteeism, you know, among certain individuals or families, whether a home assessment may be one of the options. There may be, you know, so, you know, it's more, you know, it could be something more serious in a
Yeah.
way.
Like another step.
than, you know, deaths and families and so forth. And so I think maybe, you know, maybe this be one of the options to be at least discussed and looked into.
Mhm.
I think the relationships with the families too would improve, like if they're having absences, maybe they're struggling, maybe there's something going on at home, maybe, who knows what the reason is that's going on, and if we're like assuming, okay, no, they're just not going to school, but there's a reason they're not coming, so
Yeah,
finding
we
out.
pretty much know, I mean, we know that kids who go to the nurse get sent home, we know they're sick,
Yeah.
right? We know a lot of families call in. I would say a good majority of the families let us know when students are sick.
And if they don't, we're calling home
Right,
every day. I mean, so like those next steps are being taken, and our counselors and our building administrators are very well aware of the reason that students are chronically absent. And they also are, again, connecting people with services. It still continues to be a nagging problem, and so I like the way that you're thinking with like, okay, what's the next step we can take, and I think that's where we're at, like, given all that we're doing, then what is the next step after that? Because again, it's like a nagging concern that despite all of the efforts continues. And as Mrs. Cordera mentioned, she got the letter, right? Like you get the letter if your child is absent, because that's part of the policy and we try to stay on it from the very beginning. Now, 5 days of absences in the beginning of the school year, that's considered chronic, because chronic is 10% at any given point. But as the days go on and we register more days of school in the calendar, all of a sudden 5 days won't be considered chronic anymore. So we promise we won't keep.
I was gonna have a doctor's note. But it
Yeah,
doesn't matter, right?
yeah, it does not matter.
Okay.
It does not matter. So
But yeah,
everybody
we want
gets
him
the
in
same
school.
kind of, like, everybody kind of gets pushed through that,
Yeah.
the checkpoints.
And like ultimately, you know, as a district, there's certain things that, you know, the district bears some responsibility for in regards to school, you know, absenteeism, and a lot of things that they just don't. I mean, you can't help it if a kid gets sick. You can't help it if something, you know, extraneous happens in the family and the kid just can't come to school. But then, you know, if there's an absenteeism issue with a kid who's maybe, you know, exhibiting school avoidance behaviors or is having bullying issues, then that's a different animal, and I'm sure, you know, the school certainly takes pretty serious steps there. But, you know, recognizing that, you know, to your point, you know, it's a small school, and there's going to be a certain number of absentee issues, no matter what, because of illness and whatnot, that you just can't really do that much about. It's just a matter of staying connected with the families and encouraging them to get the kids back as soon as they can be. You know?
Thank you, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that is all I have tonight.
So do we have technology update?
It's been a while.
Yeah, we miss you.
He's anxious.
Good evening, school committee members, everyone. Funny enough, I actually have MCAS on my agenda. I put a note in here, it says usually not a topic we talked about in October, but I'll get to it. Data update, the district is ahead of schedule in regards to required data reporting. Some of the procedures that we've implemented to help streamline this, we talked about attendance, we're kind of working in the back end to send notifications about kiddos, all that kind of fun stuff, to our principals who do a phenomenal job keeping an eye on it. So we actually have more valid data, much cleaner approach. We work with other departments to clean up their workflows, etc. And I want to give a special thank you to Kathleen Bourne and everyone for working towards better data systems. Something that we don't get to talk a lot about, but we get to see a lot of other districts' data. And some things get blown out of the water and we notice that we're reporting properly and they're not. So it's kind of entertaining that we get to see, for instance, some district will report that they have 15 paraprofessionals, some show 0. And you know it's just a bad data accountability. We're not that district. Security update, we've completed setting up Vector professional development and evaluation system in an SSO. We have automated all of our staff from the student information system into Vector. We do that with most things. To date, we have Frontline, Clever, Lytics, and a few others fully automated. The goal is to remove the need for someone entering data into those systems, because kind of what's happened, and it happens everywhere, is manual entering causes data issues, correct? So we've cut that out. We've kind of did the garbage in, garbage out. So if one system is bad, they're all bad, so we can fix it quickly and address those issues. But it saves significant time and makes it incredibly efficient. We've got a lot of great feedback because teachers don't need to keep 16,000 passwords. So that's been fantastic. MCAS is that one I was going to say. So October, and just to go back to what Angie and Leah talked about, last year was also the year that MCAS changed platforms. They went from Pearson to eMetric, and that's why I made this note in here to tell you guys about this now, because you might hear other districts complain about the new changes this year. So they threw out that app that they had, was brand new last year, and they put a brand new progressive web app in, and they made some significant changes in the back end, which were needed. Some things are going to be much better for the teachers to see, but yet again, it's a brand new adjustment. So you don't know how the calculations work, you don't know a lot of things, but we're hopeful. The reason why I wanted to mention is we're ahead of schedule. We actually have already implemented to every Chromebook. Kiddos don't know that, of course. They'll just see that it shows something similar. And we've tested in the back end to make sure that it's up to speed. We're also on some talk groups with them to make sure that they have everything implemented properly. And they even have a dashboard. I don't know if everybody knows this. They have a dashboard to show if any parts of the MCAS testing system is failing. You'll actually start to see that start to pop up and fail as more districts get to that time because you start stressing their systems. But we are way ahead of schedule. And from a student's perspective, it's going to look very similar to last year. And that's it. Any questions, concerns, comments? Okay.
That's great.
Great seeing you all.
All right, business manager update.
Good evening, everyone. I gave you an FY26 budget update. It's my first, second draft that I'm working on. I'm trying to make something that's more clear at every meeting that you can see as we go throughout the year. Eventually have it to where you can compare this period to last year at this period. So period 1 is July, period 2 is August. That way there you'll be able to see if we're on track and make sure we stay on track. So if we know we did well last year, we ended up with a surplus. If we're on track for this year, then we'll be doing the same. So I'll be working on that each month as we go, as I extract data from Munis and format it into a spreadsheet. Our FY26 grants, some of them are in place. We're waiting for the federal government to release funds so we can move forward on those. And the indication we have is that they will be coming, they'll just be delayed. We work off of a kind of a credit line anyways from the town. We spend the funds before we get them. We apply for reimbursements. So I don't anticipate any situations there. Heating season is upon us. We're looking. I know that there was problems last year. I was told a lot of classrooms are too hot, some classrooms are too cold. So although we're looking at getting new systems upgrades to our buildings, we're going to look at right now the facilities department, the unit vents and the controllers that control the flow of basically the water that goes through them that gives you the heat. And we're going to work at see if we can replace one or two and get them to work. Every system's different. So I spoke to our plumbing supplier, and he said as long as we get something that's similar and the same voltage, we may be able to cure some of our problems. So we're going to begin with 1 or 2 classrooms and test that out. And hopefully we can fix that, because I know I asked what the big problem was last year, big concerns, and it was some classrooms are just too hot in the winter, and that's again, it's a waste of energy. So we'll be working on that. I have a company lined up to come in and seal some more leaks in our roofs. They're hopefully going to be out next week. We're looking at weather. So they need basically a sunny day. They need temperature a certain amount, they'll come out. And for literally, I consider a small price, they're going to go through and fix a lot of our roofs. And then shortly after that, we'll be going through replacing ceiling tiles that have water stains on them while we review the classrooms. And that way there, hopefully we can see if there's no more issues at that point. We realize there's no more water coming in. In the same respect, we have a contractor lined up for the gym closet in AES, and we put together the contract for that, but we have to wait for the town meeting to happen to approve the funding. They just pushed that off another week. Hopefully the weather holds out, because they have to do that in basically warmer weather. So I don't want to put it off to the spring. Contract is coming by tomorrow. We're going to talk about it, and I asked them if there's a way that maybe they can work through the weekends or whatnot to speed the project up to get it done. So we're going to get that done, get it kind of off our plates.
How long do we anticipate that's going to take, again, that project?
It's supposed to take 2 to 3 weeks, but sometimes that's what they tell you. They underestimate and then overperform. So hopefully, if they're willing to work on weekends, we're willing to work with them and make it happen. Most of the work is on the exterior anyways. So it's not as if we have to open the building for them. But we do have to work around the morning buses, the afternoon buses. So that'll put a little damper in the schedule, but we're going to try and see what we can do to make that happen. We are continuing to push forward on the HVAC project. We're basically at the point now where discussing with the town various ways of funding it, whether or not to go up for debt exclusion, whether or not they can fit it in the next budget. So that's progressing. Our soccer fields and our basketball courts are being used. Everything's going well. So the facilities are basically underway, and the public's happy. We've got a good schedule put together. The lunch counts and the breakfast counts are slightly up from last year. We just initiated in the middle school here a grab and go for breakfast in the morning. We're trying to promote that to increase the number of breakfasts that we serve, but also give the students opportunity to get a little extra snack, which we know in turn helps with learning when they're not hungry in the morning. So that just rolled out last week, and we're going to be pushing that going forward, hopefully increasing the numbers that we have. If you increase the numbers, you also increase the money that's in the bank, which in turn buys us new equipment for our cafeterias. Busing is running very smooth. We're still fine-tuning. We still have every now and then parents that call in asking if we can change a pickup location and change a drop location to better meet. And Bonnie in my office is wonderful. She'll Google map it, search it, she'll see there's no sidewalks, she'll see if there's trees in the way, and she talks to the bus company, and they go and they work them out. But it hasn't been any problems that we haven't been able to solve so far, so I think every family is very happy with where we stand on that. I know that in the morning, in the afternoon, getting the buses in and out, there's traffic issues. The superintendent has reached out to the chief of police, asking for their assistance. If we can get, some help in the morning with, you have the people that do slow down, you have the traffic that's trying to turn in, but you also have people going 40 miles an hour by our schools. So, the safety concern, but it's been brought up to the town, so hopefully they'll work with us on that. And the largest item you have in your packet is the solar project. Some of you are familiar with it, because it started, I guess, 2 years ago. It's progressed along to where the town has actually said to Select Energy, who's the company they looked at, they gave them a letter of intent. So now we're discussing how to move forward with this project. We'd like to get a vote tonight from this committee that we'd like to pursue it and move forward, so that that can go to the select board, who then will make a presentation to them about this project. It's from what I've read, it's no money out of pocket to us. They come in, they build the structure, which would be the parking lot between the elementary school and the middle school. The panels on there would produce electricity. They in turn own the whole overall structure. We get a very discounted price of electricity that's coming out of it. So in turn saves us, saves the town money. And it's a 25-year agreement that's put together. They have tax incentives that help out their end of the bargain. That's what gives us the savings on our end. And at the end of 25 years, the contract will be that either they remove it, or we can discuss them leaving it. And if we take over, I don't know how that would work, but the lawyers would work that out. So we do have a meeting scheduled for Monday with one of the select board and the representative from Select. We have someone on the Board of Selectmen that's very knowledgeable about solar, which is great. So some of the pages are highly technical, so we hope to get in and look at those for us. And again, this will be before the entire project goes to the select board on August 21st. We've been invited, superintendent and myself, to present it. But we'd like to bring a letter from here saying that we've spoken about it. And if you are in favor, hopefully in favor of it, we move forward with it. So some of the steps are outlined in a packet I gave you.
Are we looking for a vote tonight?
I didn't realize we were looking for a vote, so is that a timely issue that we need it before the select board meeting?
Yes, it's saying we should bring it with us to the select board. It's not really so much a vote, it's more that we're in favor of this project. So, like I said, it started 2 years ago. I don't know what was presented before.
I think that's important because we have a couple of new members since we started the project. So are you looking for a vote of support?
Yes.
When is the meeting again? I'm sorry.
October 21?
October 21.
And just, it's been a little while since this has been discussed, and it was prior to my time on the board, but from what I remember from the public informational sessions, this is a canopy that would go over the parking area in between the two schools, is that correct?
Correct. They're doing a rendering for us, which we should have, I think, next week.
Okay.
I'll show the picture of it, but basically that's it.
Okay. And is it, I know that they were also at some point discussing putting panels on the roof of, I think, FMS or AES. Is that part of the scope of the
I
project?
don't think that's part of the scope. From what we discussed in the latest presentation we had, it was
Just
simply the parking lot.
Okay.
But for me, the rendering was important. I'm a visual person, and I think a lot of people would like to see what this is going to look like, right? So that should be to us soon, right?
Yes, it's supposed to be by they said the 17th, I think.
Right.
Do you know offhand, like, it's not like people are flying in and out of the parking lot all the time, but, you know, in the event that there were like a collision between a car or a bus or something like that and the structure, do we know if the school district would be on the hook for repairs, or is that assumed by the Select company?
My guess is it's their insurance, their project, because they'll be asking the town to waive taxes, a pilot, waiving the taxes, payment in lieu of taxes, for the project because it's being used to service us. So they own it. So they would have to carry their own insurance on it.
Okay. And this is something that we have to have final approval done before the end of this year, right? And otherwise, the tax incentives disappear and that becomes kind of insolvent.
That's what they're explaining to us.
Yeah.
One of our board of selectmen said he thinks that for this type of project, it could actually go beyond that point. So that's what we'll be discussing on Monday.
Okay.
Either way, that's why we're kind of trying to move this forward. At least by the time it gets to the board of selectmen to be voted on, we'll have all that information.
And they're voting on Monday at their meeting?
The 21st,
First?
I don't know if they're actually voting until they hear our proposal, and I don't know if they have to go to a finance meeting first or a town meeting.
So I'm just trying to, I don't want to, these guys are new, to Paula's point. The last time we talked about it, they weren't here. So I want to make sure that they, if we're going to say that we support it, that they feel comfortable, that they've seen enough information. So I don't want to necessarily make that determination right now at this moment, but I'm just asking if we have a little bit of time to allow these guys to get the information that they need to see where they stand.
I know for my purposes, and I won't speak for Ebony, I was pretty engaged in the initial discussion phases of this project, even though I wasn't a member of the board at the time. I paid a lot of attention to it, so I feel pretty comfortable. I'm assuming there've been some changes of, scope and scale since that, but, that really is ultimately up to the board of selectmen and this company to kind of come to an agreement on. So I feel comfortable, but I don't want to speak for anybody else.
Has a school committee taken a position prior to this
Yes,
proposal?
we have.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jennifer Downing was the chair at the time, and she actually, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe she sent a letter in support from the committee for this project. So this has been going on, the talk about this project has been going on. We've had a change in a business manager. Now we've reconnected with Select, and we're back in business for this project if it's something everyone is in agreement with.
Yeah, and I certainly support it. Again, Ms. McGlynn, I don't know if there's any other information that you would like to have or see. I want to make sure that we're able to get folks the information.
I think part of it is knowing for sure who is liable. It's important for us to know before if it does happen, just to know if we're walking into this world, what we're responsible for, what that means. It didn't seem to me when I heard it, I was assuming that it would be them, but that's an assumption, so I want to make sure that we do know that.
You can put that in your stipulation.
Yeah, but other than that, I mean, I'm for solar anyway. I think it would help out.
Yeah, and ultimately, I have only a passing understanding of solar technology, but that 25-year lease, that would line up roughly with essentially the end use date of the solar panels. They would need to be replaced in all likelihood by the end of that. So then it would be in the wording of the contract if they're going to remove it or what recourse there would be, and who knows what supply is going to look like in 25 years for getting the panels replaced. But
Correct.
yeah, it's probably too difficult to project.
I think the other thing is it going to, I think only from past experience with solar paneling, I'm just wondering, making sure that we have in the contract that it covers both schools, because sometimes it will drain one school, but the billing will cover one school first and then, or one building first. And
It's for the middle school.
just for the
They'll
middle
only
school.
produce,
Okay.
it can only produce enough for the middle school. That's why they wanted to put it on the roofs, I guess.
Okay.
But
The other thing we could certainly do, we could have Alan Giles from Select come to the school committee meeting with the rendering and talk to the committee. And if you want to send us your questions, concerns in advance, we could, have him be prepared at a meeting.
Yeah.
If that's, I know he's offered in the past to do that.
sure.
I think it's a good idea. I mean, it was 2+ years ago at this point.
We all
Yeah.
need a refresher at this
I think it's
point.
Yeah.
going to be fine, and at least from my perspective, let's at least have them come in and make sure that we tick all the boxes.
Yeah, I guess the only concern that I would have, just from a timeliness standpoint, is, if we ask that the gentleman from the solar company come in and present to us at the next scheduled meeting in November, well, that's going to be after town meeting. Obviously, the select board will already have had to meet with this company and make their determination. I mean, I just don't know if us delaying things is going to throw a wrench
That's
in
what
the
I'm worried about.
process.
Do we have the time?
Right.
I would still suggest the vote of support, if that is the voice of the committee. But I also think it's a good idea even after the fact, because we wouldn't engage in this contract for a couple of months, right? Not until December,
Exactly.
January,
Yeah.
right? I think it's important that we have a meeting so that you can feel comfortable throughout the process. And you're right, it was 2 years ago when we presented all of this information. And I think also the public would probably want to see what it looks like and hear about it again and refresh. You know, people probably thought it died, right? The project died and it didn't.
Okay.
So I think I heard we have support to send a letter if we can confirm that either it's going to be in the agreement that we're not liable, or that we get clarity around that.
Just say providing there's no liability on
Yeah.
the school system.
So I think we're comfortable saying we're in support, and we'll have somebody come in.
Yes. I think if the timeline did become a problem, I think if we had to call a meeting just to do a vote, we could have a presentation and a vote in time, you know, we could do that.
So do we need a formal vote, is my question.
I think to make it easier for ourselves, we would just say we support the project, we vote to support the project, and then we could, if the town requires something more formal,
Yes.
we can do that.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Did I derail you?
No, just say, so basically we're looking for a motion to send a letter to the Board of Selectmen that we're
Can
in
I have a
support.
motion to send a letter of support to the Board of Selectmen related to the solar project?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Seeing none, motion passes unopposed.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
One question.
Sure.
I know it's early in the budget season. Anything that concerns you, anything that you're worried about, anything you're looking in the future and saying,
Not concerned, our special ed costs are up a little higher this year than planned, but we also received an extra, I think, $57,000 in circuit breaker that will outweigh that, and I was just told that there is a student that might be leaving, so we'll have that saving. So other than that, everything else is going very well.
Can I, Chair? I just want to, for the record, I do have concerns because I know last year we were told expect level funding, which, again, I need to point out, we cut several positions last year, 12. The year before it was 5 or 6. We cannot continue to cut positions with inflation and all the rising costs. We can't stay level funded. We have to at least say level service so that our students get the same amount of service that is a quality education. So that's something that we're going to be paying very close attention to moving forward as we work on the budget. But I just want to put it out there that, you know, we're going to strive for level service. We know that the town, the funding is perhaps lacking. We're also working and advocating for the formula for Chapter 70 funding to be fixed. So with that, but that's not an overnight fix either. We're just continuing to advocate for level service because with inflation, it's impossible to stay level funded.
And I'd also add to your thoughts is the cost of, tuition with other communities and what impact that's going to have on the budget, even though we have level service in all areas.
We want to be fiscally responsible in everything that we do, which we have been. But we know that times are tough right now, but inflation is ridiculous. So we can't stay level funded and we're not giving our kids what they need. And especially with the cuts the last couple of years, we're feeling it in our schools. Staff are taking on more. So I will be advocating for at least level service as we move forward with this budget.
I would suggest, and I haven't raised this at this point because I think I want to allow some progress on the high school situation so we can see to that point how that impacts budget. But I suggest that the budget subcommittee, get together pretty soon and start to look at that. I'm looking at my partner there, Mr. Howcroft.
Going to disturb my sleep. Stop that.
No, because I do think that it's important that we engage with our partners in town earlier this year, to allow ourselves a little more flexibility and time to work through whatever issues and challenges we may have. And I hope that we can all come to the table and have a very serious discussion about how to approach the budget situation this year. And if we anticipate that the next 2 years or 3 years are going to be a challenge, we should kind of take a short and long-term view on how to deal with that. So that's my.
I mean, we've got kind of a confluence of a lot of major town expenses this year. I mean, normal, annual budget increases because fuel oil is more expensive, insurance is more expensive, people want raises, like you can't blame them. But then also we have the Old Colony project, which I know there's a lot of folks in town, both in, town administration and residents that are both excited and very apprehensive about. It's a significant price tag for the town. Plus, we're still working on getting the air quality project off the ground. It seems like the solar project isn't going to be any out of pocket for the school, which is great. But, in addition to that, we've got the town tuition agreement, or the high school tuition agreement. So there's just so many things happening all at the same time, and frankly, a lot of them are unknowns. I think that bringing the finances to the forefront as soon as possible, to Chairman Hood's point, is super important this year, because otherwise it's going to be January, and we'll all have been so busy dealing with this other stuff that all of a sudden budget season is going to be right on top of us. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, school committee member reports. Anybody? I have one thing, but.
I just have one issue, I just want to thank you, the school committee and the superintendent, for the support in my recent health challenge. That, received some flowers and cards, and they were very supportive. They really helped me get through another challenge that I've had. So I want to say again, thank you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, John. You're an asset to this committee and have been to this town, so we're lucky to have you. So we appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
One thing I wanted to raise, and at one of our upcoming, maybe next couple of meetings, is, each year we've kind of taken a pretty serious look at safety and security. So I'd like to have an executive session with our new committee to sit down and talk about what our safety and security priorities may or may not be. That's not something that I ever want to feel like we haven't at least had a conversation about and looked at, because you know how serious it is and how common it is for things like that to be needed. And so anyway, I just want to have that conversation maybe at one of our upcoming executive sessions.
Very nice.
All right, any questions on any of the communications and other information? Oh, you have
I have
something?
one thing.
Go ahead.
Under B, Comprehensive Health and Phys Ed Framework Letter to Families, I just wanted to give a quick update. As you know, we have new health standards that came out in 2023. And over the last couple of years, we've been sending teachers and administrators for training so that we can understand what it's about. We, this year, have done a crosswalk from the old previous standards to the new ones to see which, we're keeping the same, right? We could never do all 300 plus standards. We don't have the time. Students at the middle school level receive health class 1 time per week, and they do not get health class at the elementary school. So there is some scuttlebutt out there that we're teaching all these new things to kids. We have not done any of that. I would just ask the public to get their information, the accurate information, directly from the schools. And we have had a couple of parents email, reach out. That's always the best, most accurate source. We decided to just crosswalk what we were doing with the new standards, the same standards. That's where we're at right now. We'll look at next year, we'll put out a survey to families because we want to be fair and see what people think, but we did have a survey link on this letter that was sent out, and initially we had 14 respondents, which a couple from the same households were up to 27. So still very low. It went out to the entire district, but the idea will be that we'll look at this data, We'll put it in front of the Safety and Wellness Committee, which consists of staff, parents, etc., to make the best decisions moving forward, but nothing will change at this point. And if something were to change, we would certainly notify our families. But again, I just want to stress, I know there's a lot of things on social media. That is not accurate information coming from the school district. So I want to reiterate, please contact the schools directly by email or phone. That's the best way to get accurate information.
Any other questions on any of the communication and information? No? All right, so there'll be no executive session today. Our next school committee meeting is on Tuesday, November 18th, 2025 at 6 p.m. in the FMS library. May I have a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting?
So motion.
Second.
And we'll do a roll call.
Mr. Hood?
Yes.
Mrs. Cordero?
Yes.
Mr. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Howcroft?